It's been a year since Leah Sharibu, a Dapchi schoolgirl, has been abducted by Boko Haram. Her classmates have been released, but she still is being held hostage. The mother of the 15-year-old girl, Rebecca, pleaded with President Muhammadu Buhari, the United States and the United Kingdom to do everything in their power to rescue Leah. And to discuss it with us this evening, we have Mr. Adeniyi Kunnu. He's a public affairs analyst, and Ihechukwu Ibeju. He's also a public affairs analyst. It's good to have you guys in the studio.
Thank you
very much for joining us. We'll just kick off with the conversation as per the public address by the mother, Rebecca, about the situation, and then government's reaction. I'll come to you, Kunnu. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I think it would be an afterthought for the presidency to make any comments, because since they got out the other girls, except of course Leah Sharibu, any statement made by the government has always come when people tell them that it appears as if they've forgotten her in captivity. The records are there for people to check. Anytime they talk about Leah Sharibu, since they got the other girls out, it is always about the fact that people are telling lies or really are against the government. But if we check the opening portions of the ground norm of the country, I call it the Constitution, it is the primary responsibility of government to ensure security of lives and property. Leah Sharibu is no less human. And I have to tell you that the psychological damage that had happened to that young girl may take years for her to recover, if at all she's going to recover. So I think very strongly that rather than the government say things like she's not dead, it is fake news, government should rather be very circumspect with words, should be very restrained and remorseful, because a lot of us feel very disappointed in the fact that they've had to say something before government replies. If you look at it, if the news about that, or if the press conference held that in which the mother spoke hadn't been broadcast, then we may not have heard anything again, because they are so concerned about the elections, but they forget the promises made to the people about ensuring that she's out.
But the presidency is saying that the rumor, they're bringing up the issue now is like primarily targeted at Buhari to make him look bad just days to the election. They're coloring it as politics at this point in time. And like you noted, they're not paying attention to the issue. What do you make of this? Let me come to you. Do you think that there is actually a political motivation at this time for the mother to be coming? Why has she been silent for, months, if she has been, asking the questions?
I think for months now, we've really not heard much about this Leah Sharibu issue, and to be quite frank, it's a very sad and unfortunate issue. For her to come out at this point clearly tells you that she knows that the government will take note, because it's a strategic point, it's a strategic moment, and these elections, quite frankly, these elections are really, really intensely being challenged from both sides, by all the opponents, especially the two major frontline parties. So any statement in that guise from her, this is the best time for such notice to be taken. But it's quite unfortunate that the government will read some kind of political undertone to the whole thing, because, come on, 1 whole year in captivity, a lot of proactiveness could have been put into this, because it's not like a stopgap. It's as if the whole thing has been forgotten, except the government is telling us that they are doing something on the ground.
When we talk about being forgotten, let's not forget that there are girls who are still missing before the Chibok girls. Yeah. What about those girls? Because, remember when the Dapchi girls were brought back, people asked, what about the Chibok girls? Nothing is being done about it, and here we are again. There's still one more girl who's been absolutely forgotten. Yes, the government might not agree that she's been forgotten, but the story just literally died off. And for a mother who has carried a child for 9 months, obviously, she would be remembering her child, and she'll be wondering what's happened to her. And like she said at the beginning, she was 14 at the time she was taken, and now she's 15, she's grown. So really, whether it is political or not, this is when the right questions should be asked. So what's wrong with asking about those girls?
It is quite unfortunate that we're faced with a situation whereby the government who have the channel of negotiation, who have the channel, if they decide, who have the channel of information, with the militants, who they are the rightful people empowered to discuss anything around this security, all right, have to be pushed to the wall or have to be reminded to do this by this statement. Because now this has drawn attention. In fact, this has now drawn attention to those other scenarios. And I mean, any responsive or proactive government that has been doing something before now, this is the time to show the people what they've been doing. So for instance, the lady the mother has released the statement. This is the time to come out and say, okay, this is what, if they are doing anything, this is time to come out and say, this is what we're doing, this is what we do, this is what we're doing. That completely knocks off any other response from any other angle.
Does it? Okay.
Just go ahead.
Does it worry you that anytime things like this happen, we need to preempt the government? Each time there is a response, it looks like they're instigated by activists or social media movement, or maybe even the international media coming in to say, you need to do this, why? Does it worry you, really?
Well, I'm not worried. I need you to understand that there is political strategy and there is strategy in advocacy. There is strategy in lobbying, for those who understand lobbyists in the US. There is strategy in political campaigns. Even as human beings, our daily lives are full of survival strategies. That established, I must say here, very succinctly, that at this point that the statement has been made by Leah Sharibu's mother is a call to salvage a situation that may not be given attention. When you talk about the Chibok girls, it didn't happen under this administration. It happened during the Jonathan administration. The Jonathan administration was voted out, and it took Buhari and every other person to get out in excess of, I think, 80 of those girls or thereabout. That is something very instructive. Leah Sharibu's mother may have thought that the fate which befell Jonathan may befall Buhari, such that he will be voted out of office in the coming elections. And she can only press the necessary buttons when these incidents happen, such that the administration that is aware of it will have to face it and get the daughter out.
But government is supposed to be a continuum, whether it be a Bill Clinton or a Goodluck Jonathan, whoever takes office is supposed to carry on from where their predecessors stopped. So yes, I know that she's worried if this is, if this were to be what's going on in her head, but why do you think that the average Nigerian thinks that way? Is it because we know that our governments don't pick up from where...
It is about the practice that is before us every time and again. We reside in Lagos. We can analyze the project that belongs to the federal government, and now, even within a political party, the successive governments have not deemed it fit to continue what was left by an administration that belong in the same party as themselves.
The question again is why? Why do we have that mentality?
The anomalies of governance appear to be becoming normalcy, and that is why people tend to go in that direction. Let's say this. You said government is in continuum. No doubt about it. That is the ideal. But does Nigeria have an ideal situation? That is another question that we must attempt to give answers to. Because you can't tell me that in an ideal situation, when Obasanjo was there, court verdicts were given in respect of the monies that belong to Lagos. He disregarded it. That is the feature of a very anomaly situation. And that's the reality of it. So when a situation is not an ideal, you see certain things that are contrary to the norm happen. And that is what has become the peculiarities of the Nigerian system of governance.
Let me chip in. Let me chip in very quickly. To be very frank with you, the Boko Haram issue, be it Chibok into Dapchi, has been a cardinal point of political promise for each government that have come into power.
Absolutely.
And one of the reasons why Nigerians display apprehensiveness when these kind of things come up is because, to be quite frank with you, an average Nigerian can be susceptible to the same situation. Because look, hey, we're facing kidnapping where? In the South. At some spots, you hear about kidnapping in South. So it could be anybody. So you tend to ask yourself, okay, so if I'm the one, is this how it's going to be?
But again, I go back to advocacy. We talked about the role that they play, and we know that it played a huge role in the Bring Back Our Girls movement that came. But for a couple of months now, we haven't seen that fervency, that passion that they used during that period. Almost consistently, you see them in the face of government agitating and saying, we need these girls back, we need these girls back. There seemed to be a slowdown in pace, and this might have reflected in government's act. That does not excuse the government's seeming, laid-back attitude to the situation, but shouldn't it be a continuum? Should we get distracted from causes when something new comes up?
Well, I'd like to first of all rub this reality in, that when the Chibok happened, even the government in power first of all denied the fact that it happened.
True.
That alone stepped up advocacy and the rebuttals the Jonathan administration got, because as a government you should be on top of your game. It would have gone the same way with the Dapchi girls, but I have to praise the Nigerian media because many of them swung into action. So before lies were told, they were able to have access to families, they were able to have access to the schools, so there was no hiding for the government at this point. So when the truth is out early enough, it is needless really playing some kind of game. So the advocacy then was as strong as it was, because government was at first denying it, then later government said it's the work of some kind of political elements. There were lots of theories that they put out then. And also I'd like you to remember that the Jonathan administration, for a lot of reasons, didn't enjoy the best of countenance during its later days. And these things actually caused a lot of people to feel you cannot claim to be in government and it appears as if people were just taking over things. So I think to a great extent, it lost control at some point and the advocacy groups have to be on top. But for this, I'd like you to also understand that this administration is peculiar for a lot of things that appear to go the military way. You find out that at some point when they talk about the Benue killings, for instance, you'd expect them to swing in and there'll be actions against the people that were killings. We saw a lot of the other side of the narratives. So it's because of the differences in the way the reports came. That is my own assessment of the development that actually added to all of the discussion.
Well, some people are speculating, Ihechukwu, they're saying that this is a peculiar situation. Leah's case is different. She was restrained from coming. She was held back because she said she was not going to.
She refused to
renounce her faith. That should be a reason, especially in a very religiously heightened environment that we have in this country. Don't you think that should have spurred further action to ensure that this particular case is addressed while we try to resolve the others?
Absolutely. Look, ethnic and religious sentiments, a country is a country that is made up of people of different ethnic groups, different Christian denominations. So ethnic and religious sentiments are they are pivot points that Nigerians are very careful about, because over time we've had skirmishes, we've had issues, all right, we've had a bit of killings that have been pandered towards that direction. So when this particular Lee issue came up, quite frankly, I tell you something, that some governments will get to they will do everything possible to make sure that it is sorted out once and for all.
So why is our government different? Why are they not doing everything that is possible? Now, there have been, certain allegations that, maybe if it were to be the other way around, maybe there would have been a push and a shove to make sure that she was brought back.
That also comes into play. But that is also one of the dysfunctional issues that we have with government. Because the truth of the case is that at that point when they did not act or be proactive to see how she could be gotten out, they got consumed by other things. Now, advocacy in this country is organized to a large extent, in that if you go to other countries, some other advanced countries or some other European countries, it's a citizens' act. They come out at will to protest and they sustain it. It's sustained. Because guess what? They are fully equipped to do that. They don't have too many issues other than believing that the life of every citizen of the country matters. But in this case, as it is more organized. So for instance, they bring back
our girls campaign. Mm-hmm.
They have, right from the first time that this government, even before it came into power, right, they supported it because it was one of the cardinal promises they made. But on discovering otherwise, that they were not satisfied with the speed, or they were not satisfied at the pace of work.
But why the slowdown in
The slowdown at that point is because apparently the key principles of that group are now involved in active politics. This is a political period.
I like
talking about Ezekwesili quickly.
I'd like to add this very important point, that one of the key figures of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign got an appointment with NPA. I'd like you to remember that.
Yeah.
It's always difficult, and I tell you, perhaps that's a political strategy to whittle down the strength of the advocacy. So when you have a group of people saying, we need to get this particular thing done, and you look in their midst and you bring one of them and give her a very... Do you know what it means to be the managing director of NPA?
And that one is also a presidential candidate.
That's what she got. So at the point that you removed the pivots of the advocacy group, it will definitely begin to operate beneath its capacity. And that's exactly what happened. So, but for the other persons that still remain part of the group, for instance, and Obi Ezekwesili, for instance, she's in political delirium at the moment.
But before then, we saw Ezekwesili at the presidential villa every single day. In fact, there was a time she was arrested by the police or the DSS, you know, because they said she was blocking the passage into, and that's because, yes, some other people must have deserted her, but she was still. And when she was interviewed, I watched that interview on CNN. She said one of the reasons why she's going into this race is so that issues such as this can be addressed, because she felt like that part of the promise of this government has been abandoned.
But I have to say here also that you only need to be very logical to understand that the Bring Back Our Girls for Obi was a platform to launch a presidential aspiration.
I don't think so, because
on CNN, let me get my points very clear.
I don't want to agree with you. I don't want to
get my position very clear.
You understand?
Okay. The interview she gave on international television suggests that, well, this particular advocacy is needed for government to do the right thing. But I want to say here that that particular advocacy group gave her a better opportunity to launch her presidential aspiration. And according to what she even said on international television, nobody has to agree with each other here. This is a platform where we have to let our opinions out, and strongly so. So when she even had the opportunity to become the president, because she has a political party, she renounced the candidacy that she has without recourse to the political party processes. Who does that? Even if you're right, there is no room for individual candidacy. I have to say here.
No, but this is not. I'm saying
that for somebody who is tenacious about getting things done, you brace the storm for that singular purpose.
We're getting distracted from the point. Because if we're saying, I know you have a thought, just hold on. If we're saying that Obi Ezekwesili did not do this, or maybe she derailed, or she wasn't on the narrow path.
Derail is the word.
The movement is not just about
one person.
But did they raise enough people to take over? That is the question of leadership.
It is not just the Bring Back Our Girls group that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We have other activists. One just wrote an open letter. I think Ike Azo Akariawe or something like that. A public, I'm sorry, I murdered his name.
No problem.
But he wrote a public letter to the presidency saying that something needs to be done. There are many activists aside Obi Ezekwesili. My question still goes back to the core. Why is it that the fervency with which we pursue causes seems to wither when something new comes along? This girl has been away. It doesn't. The matter didn't just come today.
Let me respond in this manner. Now, Obi Ezekwesili Bring Back Our Girls group is a strong advocacy platform. And at the point where they had seen that, look, this advocacy was being pushed, apparently there was a strategy change. That's the way I see it. And she has said to herself, okay, hey, look, I have been doing this advocacy, and apparently it is time for me to throw my heart in the ring and even get into this presidency and make a difference. And that's the way I see it, quite frankly. And as for the Bring Back Our Girls group, even while she was running for presidency, I recall that a lot of members who came for press conferences there, even at that point, made strong cases Yes, it was downplayed, apparently because their leader was running for these presidential elections, but that advocacy was still very, very much active. Now, there's no gainsaying that there was some kind of political interference in terms of the Bring Back Our Girls group and all that, but the kernel of the team remains sacrosanct. That kernel of the team remains sacrosanct. Now, in terms of advocacy being downplayed, look, in this country, when one thing happens and waves off, and another thing comes up, what normally happens? It takes the front burner.
On the carpet,
and I said before when we started that this is the political season. So everything, and that's why Lee's mother must have realized that the politics was drowning the voice for her child. And that's why she brought this up.
I think I want to go back to what Felicity is emphasizing on. What she's saying is that advocacies don't actually, leave through the phase it's supposed to. There's always a way. Is there a deliberate attempt to always kill these advocacies? Is it political? What exactly? Or is it that the people are not tenacious enough? That's what she's asking.
That the reason
and this goes beyond the issue of Chibok
girls. The reason why advocacies are not seen through actually holds a number of factors that one could adduce. Most of the people that actually come out for advocacy there have their daytime jobs. Even the ones that have businesses have to attend to personal issues. And if you look at it, it is only in the international climes that you have advocacy groups get some kind of grants where democratic ideals are supported. As a matter of fact, you have grants set up by some very well-made individuals who have yearly allotments to advocacy groups so that they can continue to press for equitable society. But in this part of the world, most of the funds that some of these advocacy groups get come from the international waters. I have to say that here for the records. For instance, you have like a Ford Foundation that has its money into certain projects in this country. There's a particular theater performance held in Lagos here. It was supported by the Ford Foundation. Does Nigeria as a country has many think tanks that year in, year out, they support advocacy, they support democratic values with certain money? That is the reason why most of us want to go abroad for issues like PhDs, because there are grants set aside and will continue to be set aside for researchers at that level. So you find out that one of the problems of advocacy group is for somebody to have certain stipends to even get memorabilia, to push for that thing, to make a statement. Yeah. For instance, you want to organize and take 200, 300 people. You don't expect people that have sacrificed their time to also spend their money to go to campaign or press for certain things. So you find out that at some point, they are cash-strapped. Then because they have to survive, they leave that particular one. And I have to say here again, Obi was a colonel of the Bring Back Our Girls group. Adiza Bala Usman was another key figure of that group. So when a key figure was removed first, then you have another Obi who at some point had all her energies in, but later on, the ambition also took a little bit of a time. And I have to say here that many people didn't follow on the same level as the likes of Obi because she was a strong woman at the fore of it. So a situation where a woman that has the strength of 10 other persons doesn't give it everything because she's got all the very important concerns, advocacy will fizzle out only naturally.
My takeaway from what you just said is the explanation of how hard it is for activists to actually get the funding that they need and to keep the spirit up, because I mean the wear and tear of hustling in Nigeria, it's not as it is in other climes. We have, except what you're going to say as like
I was just going to agree with straight. Look, advocacy is funding. So what you find out most times, like the Charlie Boy advocacy, Amudon do. Look, this funding comes from their pockets. And most of us are in the offices. A lot of citizens are hustling, trying to get things.
Groups actually have those in the formal sector.
Those are people who just join them on the streets. Hey, they have to drink water. They have to carry memorabilia. So who's going to sustain that? Yeah. And that's actually the point in question.
And this conversation is actually very interesting. Yes. I wish we could have continued, but we have to take a break now.
We're hoping that Leah's family can get the you know, some sort of consolation. You know, hopefully there's proof of life or something.
Let's keep hope alive and then get the girls back.
Hopefully efforts will be put in place to make sure that she gets home safe and sound. Nigeria Decides continue in just a moment. We want to thank Adeniyi Kunnu, Public Affairs Analyst, and Ihechukwu Ibeju, Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. We'll take a short break. When we come back, more on Nigeria Decides.
Stay with us.